The classroom buzzed with nervous energy. Students from dozens of different worlds sat in their specialized seats, each designed for their particular body type. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few glowed softly in the dim light. They were all waiting for Professor Kilnam to announce the final project. Taiwan adjusted his crystalline blue skin and checked his data pad with 2 of his 4 eyes. He was confident. This final project would be easy. He had studied xenobiology for 6 years and knew more about alien species than most graduates. His team was smart too. They would pick something simple, collect data, write a report, and graduate with honors. Next to him, Hyrim was trembling. Her soft lavender fur rippled with anxiety. She was brilliant at medical theory but fainted at the sight of blood. Any blood, from any species. Her empathic sensors made her feel everyone's pain as if it were her own. Taewon wondered, not for the first time, why she had chosen medicine as her field. Dongmin sat on her other side, his segmented exoskeleton clicking as he shifted. His mandibles twitched with impatience. He thought this whole exercise was pointless. Most of what they learned in class was just repeated information from databases. Real psychology happened in the field, not in libraries. But he needed the grade, so here he was. Professor Kilnam entered the room. His 8 tentacles moved slowly, gracefully. He was ancient, even by Eldorian standards. He had been teaching xenobiology for 300 years. Some students said he had personally met representatives from every species in the Federation. Looking at his tired eyes, Taewon believed it. The professor's voice was soft, barely above a whisper, but everyone heard him clearly. That was another Eldorian trait. Their voices carried perfectly no matter how quietly they spoke. Your final project is simple, Professor Kilnam said. Choose 1 species. Study one of their unique biological adaptations, but you cannot use just databases. You must do practical observations. You must interview members of that species. You must understand them not just as data, but as living beings. Students immediately started talking. Taewon turned to his team. We should pick something easy. The Vrelians and their 3 hearts. Or maybe Quilarian empathy. We could measure the range and accuracy. Dongmin's mandibles clicked in disagreement. Too boring. Everyone studies those. We need something interesting. Something that will make the professors remember us. What about humans? Hyrim said quietly. Both of them turned to stare at her. Humans, the newest members of the Federation? The species everyone whispered about but nobody really understood. What about humans? Taewon asked carefully. Their pain resistance, Hyrim said, her voice getting stronger. Everyone talks about it. How they can survive injuries that would kill other species. How they just keep going even when they should be unconscious. But nobody has actually studied it properly. It's all just stories. Dongmin leaned forward, interested now. Stories are usually exaggerated. It would be interesting to prove what's real and what's myth. Taewon nodded slowly. It would be original research. Real data instead of rumors. And humans are easy to find. There are dozens working on this station. Then we agree? Hyrim asked. They all nodded. Taewon submitted their proposal to Professor Kilnam before they could change their minds. The old professor looked at their choice and his tentacles went very still. That was never a good sign, humanity, he said softly. You wish to study human pain tolerance? Yes, Professor. We believe the stories are exaggerated. We want to find the truth. Professor Kilnam's eyes seemed to look through them. The truth, yes, the truth about humanity is important. But are you prepared to find it? We're ready, Professor, Taewon said confidently. Very well. I will arrange for you to meet Dr. Jiwon Park. She is the human cultural liaison. She has agreed to help students with their research projects. But remember this. The professor's voice dropped even lower. Humanity survived on a death world. Every aspect of their biology reflects that. When you think you understand them, remember where they came from. Taewon nodded, but he wasn't worried. Death world or not, biology was biology. Pain tolerance could be measured. They would collect data, prove that humans were just slightly above average, and write their report. Simple. That evening, they started their research. The station's database had plenty of information about humans. Most of it was confusing. Humans were physically weak compared to most species. Their bones broke easily. Their skin tore easily. They had no natural armor, no venom, no claws. They were slow runners. They couldn't see in the dark. They couldn't breathe in most atmospheres without assistance. Yet their survival rate in combat was higher than species twice their size. Their medical recovery records showed them healing from injuries that should have been fatal. Their historical records were full of impossible survival stories. This doesn't make sense, Dongmin muttered, clicking through files. Look at this. A human soldier lost half his blood and still fought for 20 minutes. That's physically impossible. The brain shuts down. Maybe it's a translation error, Taewon suggested. Or propaganda. Humans might exaggerate their own history. Hyarim was reading something else. Her fur had gone pale. They have a word for giving birth without pain medicine. They call it natural. As if it's normal. As if it's a choice people make. What? Taewon grabbed her datapad and read. His skin flickered through several shades of blue as he processed the information. Human females could experience labor lasting up to 48 hours. Sometimes longer. And some chose to do this without any medical pain relief at all. The survival rate was over 90% even before modern medicine. That's insane, Dongmin said flatly. Childbirth that painful and long would kill any Korthan female within an hour. Our pain response triggers automatic shutdown. It's a survival mechanism. Why don't theirs? Maybe their pain response is different, Taewon said. That's what we're here to find out. They kept reading. The more they learned, the less sense it made. Humans played sports that caused injuries. They decorated their bodies with needles that pierced their skin repeatedly. They exercised until their muscles hurt because somehow, that made the muscles stronger. They consumed food and drinks that burned their mouths and called it enjoyable. I think we picked the wrong species, Hyarim whispered. I don't understand any of this. That's exactly why we should study them, Dongmin said. He was fully engaged now, his earlier boredom gone. This is real xenobiology. Not just cataloging differences, but understanding why those differences exist. Taewon agreed. We meet Dr. Park tomorrow. She'll explain everything. Humans are probably just very good at hiding pain, or their historical records are exaggerated. We'll find the real explanation. That night, Taewon couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about what Professor Kilnam had said. Humanity survived on a death world. He pulled up Earth's planetary classification. Class 9 death world. Only 0.2% of habitable planets were rated that high. Earth's gravity was heavy. Its atmosphere was dangerously reactive. Its weather was violent. Its native life forms were aggressive and numerous, and humans had not just survived there. They had thrived. They had built civilizations. They had reached the stars. What did it take to survive on a world like that? What did it do to a species? Taewon closed his datapad. Tomorrow they would meet Dr. Park. Tomorrow they would start getting real answers. He told himself he was ready for whatever they would find. He was wrong. Dr. Ji-won Park was not what they expected. She was small, even for a human. She smiled warmly as they entered her office. Her movements were gentle and calm. She offered them refreshments and asked about their studies with genuine interest. Nothing about her seemed dangerous or unusual. That made Taewon even more nervous. So you want to study human pain tolerance, Dr. Park said, settling into her chair. That's a very specific topic. What made you choose it? Taewon explained their research goals. They wanted to separate fact from fiction. They wanted to understand the biological mechanisms. They wanted real data. Dr. Park listened carefully. When he finished, she was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled, but it was a different kind of smile. Sadder somehow. You think the stories are exaggerated, she said. It wasn't a question. Well, yes, Dongmin said. Most stories grow with the telling. We just want the truth. The truth, Dr. Park repeated. All right. I'll help you find the truth. But I should warn you. The truth about humanity is often more disturbing than the myths. Are you sure you want to continue? They all nodded. They were scientists. They could handle the truth. Very well. I have a medical checkup scheduled for this afternoon. You're welcome to observe. After that, we can discuss what you saw. The medical center was clean and bright. They stood in an observation gallery above the examination room. Dr. Park entered below with a human medical technician. Everything seemed normal, routine, boring even. Then the blood draw started. The technician took a long metal needle. It was hollow. Taewon watched in growing horror as the technician pushed the needle directly into Dr. Park's arm. It pierced the skin. Blood flowed into a tube. Dark red human blood. Hyarim made a small sound and gripped the railing. Her empathic sensors were screaming. She could feel the pain of penetration, the wrongness of having metal inside flesh. But Dr. Park just sat there. She was talking about the weather, commenting on how nice the recycled air felt today, as if nothing was happening. Is she sedated? Taewon asked the medical observer next to them. Avrelian doctor. No sedation. Humans have blood drawn routinely, usually once a year for health monitoring. More often if they're sick, once a year. Dongmin's mandibles clacked in disbelief. They do this voluntarily? Regularly? For them, it's preventive medicine. They consider it minor discomfort. Taewon watched the monitors. Dr. Park's heart rate had increased slightly. Her stress hormones were elevated. Her nerve sensors were clearly firing pain signals, but her brain was somehow processing all of that and deciding it wasn't important enough to react to. The technician filled 4 tubes with blood. 4. For Avrexian, losing that much blood required hospital admission and recovery time. Dr. Park rolled down her sleeve and thanked the technician. How does she do that? Hiram whispered. She was shaking. The Vrelian doctor shrugged, a gesture she had learned from humans. That's what makes them remarkable. And terrifying. They can simply decide that pain isn't important. But the blood draw was just the beginning. Next came the dental examination. The dentist used metal instruments to scrape Dr. Park's teeth. The sound echoed through the observation gallery. Scraping, scraping, metal on bone. Dr. Park's mouth was held open with devices. She couldn't speak. She could only sit there while someone scraped at her teeth with metal tools. This is normal? Taewon asked weakly. Humans should have dental cleanings every 6 months, the Vrelian doctor said. Sometimes they need more invasive procedures, drilling, extractions. They usually only use local anesthesia. Local anesthesia? You mean they're awake while someone drills into their bones? Yes. They find it inconvenient to be fully sedated for minor procedures. Taewon felt his skin shifting colors rapidly. This was minor? This was routine? What did humans consider major? After the examination, they met Dr. Park in a conference room. She looked completely normal. No signs of trauma. She was smiling and asking if they wanted tea. Are you in pain? Hiram asked, her voice high and tight. Dr. Park touched her arm where the needle had gone in. A little sore, maybe. It'll be gone by tomorrow. Why? Why? Hiram's fur was standing on end. We just watched you have a metal spike driven into your arm. We watched someone scrape your bones with metal tools. And you're asking why we think you might be in pain? Dr. Park looked genuinely confused for a moment. Then understanding crossed her face. Oh, right. For you, those procedures would require serious sedation, wouldn't they? For us, those procedures would be emergencies, Taewon said. Not routine checkups, Dr. Park nodded slowly. I forget sometimes how different we are. For humans, yes, those are just normal medical procedures. Mildly uncomfortable but necessary. We learn to tolerate them. How? Dongmin demanded. How do you learn to tolerate having metal pushed into your body? Practice, I suppose. We experience pain from a young age. Children fall and scrape their knees. They get vaccinations. They learn that pain is temporary and healing follows. We develop a relationship with pain. It's information, not a command. Information? Taewon repeated. Pain tells us something is wrong, but we can evaluate how wrong. A needle stick is different from a broken bone. A headache is different from a heart attack. We learn to assess the severity and act accordingly. She made it sound so reasonable, but Taewon's monitors had shown her pain receptors firing. The signals had been clear. Her body was telling her to stop, to flee to protect the injured area. She had simply ignored those signals. Can all humans do this? He asked, more or less. Some have higher pain tolerance than others. But yes, this is normal human capacity. We all do this regularly. What about serious injuries? Dongmin asked. What about broken bones or deep wounds? Dr. Park thought for a moment. I broke my arm when I was 12. Fell off my bicycle. It hurt quite a lot. But I walked home, told my mother, and she took me to the hospital. I was in a cast for 6 weeks. Then I was fine. You walked home with a broken arm? Hiram looked like she might faint. It was only a kilometer. What else would I do? Call for emergency transport? Go into shock? Lose consciousness? Taewon suggested. Dr. Park smiled. I suppose most species would. But human bones break fairly often, especially in children. We're active. We take risks. We fall down. It's part of growing up, part of growing up. Broken bones were part of normal human childhood. Taewon felt something shift in his understanding. This wasn't about humans being tough or brave. This was about humans having a completely different baseline for what counted as normal injury. What about childbirth? Hiram asked quietly. We read that human females can be in labor for days. Without pain medication, Dr. Park's expression softened. Yes, labor is painful. Very painful, but it's also natural. The body is designed for it. Women know what to expect. They prepare mentally, and they have support. Partners, family, medical staff. Nobody does it alone. But the pain, Hiram insisted. How do they endure it? Because there's a purpose. The pain means their baby is coming. It's temporary, it ends. And then they have their child. The reward makes the suffering worthwhile. The three students sat in silence. They had come here thinking they would debunk myths. Instead, they were learning that the myths weren't exaggerated at all. If anything, they were understated. Dr. Park watched them with kind eyes. I know this is difficult to understand. Your species evolved differently. Your pain responses are more protective. Ours are more informative. Neither is better or worse. Just different. Different, Taewon echoed. But it wasn't just different. It was alien in a way he had never encountered before. He had studied dozens of species. He had learned about their biologies, their cultures, their ways of thinking. But he had never met a species that could simply decide that pain wasn't important. Would you like to continue your research? Dr. Park asked. I can arrange for you to observe more procedures. Interview other humans. Access medical records. They looked at each other. Hiram was pale and trembling. Dongmin's mandibles were clicking rapidly. Taewon's skin had settled on a dark, troubled blue. But they had started this project. They needed to finish it, and despite their fear, they needed to understand. Yes, Taewon said. We want to continue. We need to understand how this is possible. Dr. Park nodded. Then let's continue. But I want you to remember something. Every human you meet carries this same ability. Your classmates, your neighbors, the friendly human who serves you coffee. We all live with this every day. Try to remember that when you start to feel afraid. That was the problem, Taewon thought. He wasn't afraid of humans. He was afraid of what being human meant. The testing laboratory was designed for measuring pain tolerance across different species. It had been built with safety in mind. No test was supposed to cause actual harm, just discomfort, just enough to measure where different species reach their limit. Dr. Park had agreed to take the standard Federation pain tolerance tests. The same tests that every species took. The results would be recorded and compared. Finally, they would have real data. Taewon checked the equipment 3 times. Everything was calibrated correctly. The monitoring devices were working perfectly. There would be no errors in this data. The first test was thermal tolerance, a basin of water that slowly increased in temperature. Most species removed their hand at 35 to 37 degrees. Phyrexians, who had the highest recorded tolerance, could manage 38 degrees for short periods. Dr. Park placed her hand in the water. The temperature climbed steadily. 35 degrees. She was still relaxed. 37 degrees. No change in her expression. 40 degrees. Her skin was turning red. The monitors showed her pain receptors firing rapidly. 43 degrees. 45 degrees. 46 degrees, Dr. Park, Taewon said carefully. You can stop whenever you need to. I know, she said. Her voice was strained now but steady. Just a bit more. The water reached 46 degrees before she removed her hand. Her skin was bright red. Steam rose from her wet fingers. Hiram made a distressed sound. Are you hurt? Hiram asked, her voice shaking. Dr. Park examined her hand. Uncomfortable. Like touching something too hot in the kitchen. It'll be fine in a few minutes. Taewon was staring at his monitors. 46 degrees. That was more than 300% above the galactic average, and Dr. Park was treating it like a minor inconvenience. Equipment malfunction? Dongmin suggested weakly. Taewon shook his head. He had checked everything. The equipment was working perfectly. The readings were accurate. Dr. Park had just endured water temperatures that should have caused severe pain and tissue damage, and she was rating it as uncomfortable. The second test was pressure pain. A device applied gradually increasing pressure to the fingernail. Most species stopped at 2 to 3 kilograms of force. The pain became too intense. Dr. Park placed her finger in the device. The pressure increased slowly. 3 kilograms, 4 kilograms, 5 kilograms. Her jaw tightened. 6 kilograms. She was breathing faster now. 7 kilograms. 8 kilograms. Stop, she said finally. The device released. Dr. Park shook her hand, flexing the finger. That one was harder. Maybe a 6 out of 10 on the pain scale. 6 out of 10. Humans had a numerical scale for pain. That meant they experienced it frequently enough to need categories. Levels. A system for communication about suffering. You have a scale? Hiram asked. For pain? Of course. Medical professionals need to know how bad it is. 1 to 10. 1 is barely noticeable. 10 is the worst pain imaginable. Most everyday injuries are around 3 to 5. Everyday injuries, Dongman repeated. His mandibles had stopped clicking. He seemed to be in shock. The third test was cold endurance. Subjects held ice in their bare hand. Average tolerance was 30 to 45 seconds before the pain became unbearable. Dr. Park took the ice. Her hand closed around it. 30 seconds. 1 minute. 2 minutes. The ice was melting. Water dripped between her fingers. 3 minutes. Her hand was turning white. The monitors showed her temperature dropping dangerously in that limb. 4 minutes and 22 seconds. She finally released the ice. Her hand was pale and stiff. She ran it under warm water and gradually the color returned. That reminded me of eating ice cream too fast, she said. You know, brain freeze? When it's so cold it hurts? You eat things cold enough to cause pain? Taewon asked. Well, yes. Ice cream is supposed to be frozen, otherwise it melts, and you eat it despite the pain. The pain only happens if you eat it too fast. Most of the time it's just pleasantly cold, refreshing. Taewon sat down heavily. Humans voluntarily consumed substances cold enough to cause pain in their heads, and they called it refreshing. The team spent the rest of the day analyzing the data. The numbers were clear. Dr. Park's pain tolerance was not just above average. It was in a completely different category. She had endured temperatures, pressures, and conditions that would incapacitate any other species. Maybe she's exceptional, Hiram suggested hopefully. Maybe most humans aren't like this, Dr. Park had overheard. She smiled gently. Actually, I'm pretty average. I know humans with much higher pain tolerance, athletes, soldiers, people who work in physically demanding jobs, and mothers. Every human mother has endured pain I can't imagine. But you're a doctor, Dongmin protested. You must be tougher than average. I'm a cultural liaison. I work in an office. I type on computers all day. If anything, I'm softer than most humans. I haven't done hard physical labor or combat training. I'm just ordinary, just ordinary. An ordinary human could endure pain levels that would hospitalize a Rexian or kill a Colarian. And she thought she was weak. How? Taewon asked desperately. How is this physically possible? Dr. Park thought for a moment. Earth shaped us. You know it's a Class 9 death world, right? They nodded. Life on Earth is painful. The gravity is heavy. The weather is extreme. The predators are numerous and dangerous. Our ancestors who survived were the ones who could keep moving despite pain. Who could keep hunting even when injured. Who could keep their children alive even when exhausted and hurting. Natural selection, Dongmin breathed. Exactly. For millions of years, the humans who stopped when they hurt died. The ones who kept going survived and had children. Eventually, the ability to push through pain became part of our biology. Part of who we are. But you feel the pain, Hiram said. We saw the monitors. Your nerves were firing. You felt everything. Yes, we feel pain. We're not numb or broken, but we can evaluate it. Decide if it's dangerous or just uncomfortable. Our brains can override the immediate response. We can choose to continue despite the pain. That's not normal, Taewon said quietly. For humans, it is. For the rest of the galaxy, I suppose it isn't. That's why we're interesting to study. Dr. Park stood to leave. I've arranged for you to interview some other humans tomorrow. Different backgrounds. Different lives. You'll see that what I can do, they can do too. Some of them better than me. After she left, the 3 students sat in silence. This changes everything, Taewon said finally. Everything we thought we knew about pain tolerance, about survival responses, about biology itself. Humans break all the rules. We need to understand more, Dongmin said. We need to know why Earth made them this way. What happened there that shaped such an extreme adaptation? Hiram was trembling. I'm not sure I want to know. If this is what Earth did to them, what kind of world was it? What kind of horrors did they face? That night, Taewon couldn't stop thinking about Dr. Park's words. Humans who stopped when hurt died. For For millions of years, stopping meant death. How much suffering had humanity endured to evolve this ability? How many of their ancestors had died in pain, teaching each generation that they had to keep going? He pulled up Earth's biological database. The list of predators alone made his skin flash with alarm colors. Great cats that hunted in prides, bears that could crush bones, wolves that tracked prey for days, crocodiles that dragged victims into water, sharks that sensed blood from kilometers away. And humans had survived all of them, not by being stronger or faster, by being able to outlast them, by refusing to give up even when wounded. The next morning, they met 3 more humans. Each one told a story that seemed impossible. Bora, an engineer, showed them scars from when a machine had crushed her hand. She had pulled it free, wrapped it in cloth, and finished her shift before going to the medical center. The bones had healed. She could use her hand normally now. Hyunwoo, a construction worker, had lost 2 fingers in an accident. He had applied pressure to stop the bleeding, finished his task to make the site safe, then called for help. The fingers were reattached. He went back to work 3 weeks later. Young Mi, a mother of 3, described giving birth to her second child during a storm. No hospital, no medical staff. Just her husband, and their home. Both she and the baby survived. She said it was frightening but manageable. Manageable, giving birth without medical support was manageable. Why don't you stop? Hiram asked Young Mi. When it hurts so much, why don't you just stop? Young Mi looked surprised by the question. Stop? How can I stop? My baby needed to be born. My body knew what to do. I just had to endure until it was done. You don't stop in the middle of something that important. That was the core of it, Taewon realized. Humans didn't see pain as a command to stop. They saw it as something to endure, a challenge to overcome, an obstacle between them and their goal. For other species, pain was the body saying stop immediately or die. For humans, pain was the body saying this is difficult, but you can continue if you must. The difference was terrifying. What if they get angry? Dongmin said quietly that evening. What if someone threatens a human? They won't stop fighting just because they're hurt. They'll keep coming. That's why the Federation was scared when humans joined, Taewon said. We weren't afraid they'd attack. We were afraid we couldn't stop them if they did. Taewon spent 3 days reading everything he could find about Earth. Not the sanitized tourist information, not the cultural exchange materials. He dove into the raw planetary data, the geological surveys, the biological catalogs, the evolutionary records. Every page made things worse. Earth's atmosphere contained 21% oxygen. Most habitable worlds had 8 to 12%. Earth's air was so reactive that fires burned hotter and faster. Metals corroded. Organic matter decomposed rapidly. The air itself was aggressive. The gravity was 1 full standard. Most species evolved under 0.6 to 0.8. Earth's crushing weight shaped every aspect of human biology. Their bones were thick and dense. Their muscles were powerful. Their hearts were strong. They needed all of it just to stand upright. The weather was violent and unpredictable. Temperature ranges from -89 to +58 degrees. Hurricanes with winds over 300 kilometers per hour. Tornadoes that could tear apart buildings. Lightning storms that struck the ground millions of times per day. Humans called this normal weather. Dongmin was researching Earth's predators. His mandibles hadn't stopped clicking for hours. The list seemed endless. Lions, tigers, bears, wolves, crocodiles, sharks, snakes with venom that could kill in minutes, spiders whose bite caused flesh to rot, insects that spread diseases. They had to fight all of these, he said, showing Taewon a video of a great white shark. The creature was massive, powerful, and built for killing. Humans swam in oceans with these voluntarily. They still do, Taewon replied. I saw vacation advertisements for beach resorts. Humans pay money to swim in water with predators. Hiram was reading medical records from human history. Her fur had been pale for days. She looked like she might be sick. Before modern medicine, they did surgery on conscious patients, she said, her voice hollow. They would cut into people who were awake, who could feel everything. They would tie them down and just cut. Amputations took minutes. The patients would scream but survive. How many survived? Taewon asked. Too many. That's the problem. Enough survived that they kept doing it. Enough endured that the species continued. Any other species would have gone extinct, but humans just kept going. The disease records were even worse. Earth had produced plagues that killed millions. Bubonic plague, Smallpox, influenza, cholera, malaria, tuberculosis. Humans had fought all of them. Many humans died, yes, but many also survived. Their immune systems were aggressive and paranoid, constantly fighting invisible enemies. Most species would be extinct within a week on Earth, Dongmin said. The diseases alone would kill us. Never mind the predators or the weather or the gravity. Just the microscopic life would be enough. Dr. Park visited them that afternoon. She found them surrounded by screens showing Earth's horrors. "Ah," she said quietly. "You're learning about home. How did you survive?" Hiram asked desperately. "How did your species not go extinct?" Dr. Park sat down with them. "We survived because we adapted. Because we learned. Because we refused to give up. Earth was harsh, yes, but it was also beautiful. And it was home. We couldn't leave, so we learned to endure." "Endure," Taiwan repeated. "You keep using that word, as if suffering is normal. For humans, it is normal. We learn it young. Children fall and scrape their knees. They get sick. They experience hunger, cold, heat, exhaustion. They learn that discomfort and pain are temporary, that they can be endured, that healing follows suffering. But why?" Dongmin demanded. "Why did evolution make you this way instead of making you stronger or faster?" "Because we couldn't be stronger or faster. The predators were already stronger and faster. We couldn't compete on those terms. So we evolved a different advantage. Endurance," Taiwan breathed. "Exactly. We're pursuit predators. Our ancestors would chase prey for hours, sometimes days. The prey would run until exhausted, then collapse. We would walk up and finish it. We couldn't catch it in a sprint, but we could outlast it." She pulled up a video. It showed an ancient human hunt, reconstructed from archaeological evidence. A group of humans tracked a large animal across grasslands. The animal ran. The humans walked. The animal rested. The humans kept walking. Hours passed. The animal grew tired. The humans did not stop. Eventually, the animal couldn't run anymore. The humans approached and killed it quickly. "This is called persistence hunting," Dr. Park explained. "It only works if you can ignore pain, ignore exhaustion, ignore your body's demands to stop and rest. You have to keep moving no matter what." "So you evolved to ignore survival instincts," Hiram said slowly. "You evolved to override your own body's warnings. We evolved to evaluate those warnings and decide if they're critical or just uncomfortable. Pain is information. Exhaustion is information. But they're not commands. We can choose to continue." Taiwan felt cold despite the warm room. This was the answer they'd been seeking. Humans weren't tougher or stronger. They were just able to keep going when every other species would stop. They could push through barriers that should be absolute. "What about in groups?" Dongmin asked. "Did you hunt alone?" "No. Humans are social creatures. We hunted in groups. We lived in tribes. And that made the pain tolerance even more important." "How?" "If you're injured, you slow down the group. In a dangerous world, that could get everyone killed. Natural selection favored those who could hide their pain and keep pace. Those who showed weakness were abandoned or became prey. Those who endured survived and had children." The room was silent. Hiram looked horrified. Her species was empathic. They shared pain to build community. The idea of hiding suffering to avoid abandonment was nightmarish to her. "We're not like that anymore," Dr. Park said gently, seeing Hiram's distress. "Modern humans care for the injured. We have hospitals and medicine. We help each other. But the instinct to hide pain is still there. We have to actively fight against it sometimes. That's why your medical forms ask about pain levels," Taiwan realized, "because you can't trust humans to accurately report their suffering." "Exactly. A human saying they're fine might be critically injured. A human rating pain as 5 out of 10 might need emergency care. We downplay instinctively." Dr. Park showed them more data. Human cultural practices that tested pain endurance. Tattoos, piercings, scarification, martial arts, endurance sports. Every culture had ways to prove you could handle suffering. "These aren't barbaric," she explained. "They're cultural reinforcement of a survival trait. We practice enduring pain so we'll be ready when real pain comes." "You practice suffering," Dongmin said flatly. "Voluntarily. We practice endurance, and we're better for it. Humans who have never faced hardship often struggle more when challenges come. Those who have practiced resilience handle difficulties better." Taiwan was beginning to understand the full picture. Humans weren't cruel or masochistic. They were survivors shaped by a world that demanded constant endurance. Pain tolerance wasn't optional. It was necessary for survival. And millions of years of evolution had made it part of human nature. What about war? He asked quietly. Human combat records show soldiers fighting despite severe injuries. Is that the same adaptation? Dr. Park's expression became sad. Yes, and combat stopping means death. For you and for your comrades, soldiers learn to compartmentalize pain, to function despite injury, to keep fighting until the threat is neutralized. And this is normal? For all humans? All humans have the capacity. Not all develop it fully. Soldiers train for it. Athletes train for it. But even civilians can access it when necessary. When a mother protects her child. When someone flees danger. When survival demands it. Humans can push beyond what should be possible. She stood to leave. I know this is disturbing. But remember what I told you before. Every human you meet carries this ability. Your kind neighbors. Your gentle friends. We're all capable of extraordinary endurance. But we're also capable of kindness, creativity, love, and joy. The same biology that makes us resilient also makes us caring. We endure for each other. After she left, the 3 students sat in silence. She's trying to make it sound positive, HFY whispered. But all I can think about is how much suffering humanity has endured. How many generations lived with pain as a constant companion? And they survived, Dongmin said. That's the terrifying part. They survived everything Earth threw at them. And now they're here, in the Federation, walking among us. And we never realized what they really are. What are they? Taewon asked. Survivors. The ultimate survivors. A species that refuses to quit no matter how much it hurts. Taewon looked at the data one more time. Human pain tolerance. Human endurance. Human resilience. All of it traced back to one simple fact. On Earth, stopping meant death. So humans learned not to stop. That night, he had nightmares about Earth. He dreamed of a world where everything hurt, where pain was constant, where survival required ignoring your body's desperate pleas to rest. He woke up trembling, grateful for his own gentler world, but humans had nowhere else to go. Earth was their home, so they adapted. They endured. They survived. And now they were reaching for the stars, carrying their hard-won resilience with them. The galaxy would never be the same. Professor Kilnam granted them access to classified military archives. The records from the First Contact War. The brief but intense conflict when humanity first encountered the Krathid Empire. The Krathid were warriors, 3 meters tall with natural armor and 4 arms. They had conquered 12 systems before meeting humanity. They expected humans to surrender immediately. Humans were small, soft, physically weak. The Krathid were wrong. Taewon loaded the first combat recording, a boarding action on a human mining station. The station had minimal defenses. The human security force was outnumbered 3-1. Krathid tactical analysis had given the humans 0% survival probability. The footage started with plasma fire, bright, hot, destructive. A human security officer, Sergeant Jae-hyuk Kim, was hit in the shoulder. The plasma burned through his armor. Cauterized as it penetrated, that should have been the end. Most species went into shock from such wounds. Sergeant Kim switched his rifle to his other hand and kept firing. HFY made a choked sound. She could feel the pain through her empathic senses, even through the recording. The nerve damage, the tissue destruction. The sergeant should have been unconscious. He was hit again. This time in the leg. He braced himself against a wall and continued shooting. His movements were slower now. He was clearly in pain, but he didn't stop. A third shot took him in the abdomen, center mass, the kind of wound that kills within minutes. The sergeant slumped against a doorway. The Krathid advanced, expecting him to collapse. Instead, Sergeant Kim propped his rifle on the doorframe and set it to automatic fire. He held that position for 7 minutes. 7 minutes of continuous fire while bleeding from 3 critical wounds. He killed 4 Krathid warriors before reinforcements arrived. The medical report showed he survived. 2 months of recovery. He returned to duty after that. How? Dongmin whispered. How is that physically possible? Taewon pulled up the medical analysis. When humans faced extreme stress, their bodies flooded with chemicals, adrenaline, cortisol, endorphins. These chemicals suppressed pain by up to 80%. They increased strength. They enhanced focus. They overrode the body's safety limits. The human body could temporarily damage itself to ensure survival. It would pay for it later with pain and exhaustion. But in the moment of crisis, humans could access reserves of strength that shouldn't exist. They watched more recordings. Each one showed the same pattern. Humans fought beyond the point where other species surrendered. They didn't retreat when injured. They became more determined, more dangerous. The Krathid after-action reports were disturbing to read. Commander Thrak Nor wrote, "The humans do not stop. We have confirmed kills. We have seen them fall. They stand back up. They fight with wounds that should be instantly fatal. I do not understand how they remain conscious. My warriors are unnerved." Warrior Krelitz reported, "I personally witnessed a human female continue combat after losing 40% of her blood. She was dragging herself forward on one functioning limb, still returning fire. When we subdued her, our medics said she should have been dead 10 minutes earlier. She refused surrender even in that state." Fleet Admiral Zarnak concluded, "We cannot win a war of attrition against humanity. They fight beyond the point where we would surrender. Our warriors break when they see comrades fall. Human warriors become more determined. We are bred for combat. They are bred for survival. There is a difference." The Krathids surrendered, Taiwan said, reading the final reports. Not because they were losing, but because they realized they couldn't break human morale. Every battle cost them more than it cost the humans psychologically. Dr. Park arrived to discuss the military records. She looked sad as she saw what they were watching. "War is terrible," she said quietly. "These recordings show humans at their most desperate, fighting for survival, for each other. It's not something we're proud of. But you're so effective at it," Dongmin said. "Your soldiers don't stop. They don't surrender. They just keep fighting, because stopping means death, for them and their friends. In combat, you don't have the luxury of giving up, so you push through the pain. You keep moving. You survive." She arranged for them to interview a combat veteran. Commander Sang-woo was retired now. He had lost his left leg in battle and had extensive scarring, but he was warm and patient as he welcomed the students into his home. "You want to know about pain in combat," he said, settling into his chair. His artificial leg moved naturally, almost indistinguishable from real. "It's not like the movies make it look. You don't feel heroic. You just feel focused." "How did you continue fighting after losing your leg?" Taewon asked carefully. Commander Sang-woo smiled slightly. "I didn't lose it in combat. I lost it afterward in medical. During the fight, I didn't have time to think about it. My crew needed me. The ship was damaged. We had injured personnel. I just did my job." "But the pain," Hiram protested. "How did you function?" "Adrenaline helps. But mostly you just compartmentalize. The pain is there. You feel it. But it's not the most important thing. Saving your crew is more important. Completing your mission is more important." "The pain can wait. It can wait?" Dongmin repeated. "Pain is a survival signal. How can it wait? Because I was already surviving. The pain was just information. My leg was damaged. I acknowledged that. But I could still move, still think, still act, so I did. Later in the hospital it hurt like hell. But during the crisis I had more important concerns." The commander showed them his medal. It was a simple piece of metal, but it represented valor in combat. He was embarrassed by it. "I'm not special," he insisted. "Any human soldier would have done the same. We train for it. We prepare mentally. We know that in combat you can't stop just because you're hurt. That's basic survival." "Basic survival," Taewon echoed. For humans, fighting through catastrophic injury was basic survival training. They asked about other soldiers. Commander Sang-woo told them stories, each one more impossible than the last. Corporal Sun-hee Lee lost her arm below the elbow in an explosion. She applied a tourniquet with her remaining hand and teeth. Then she returned fire for 15 minutes. She refused evacuation until her squad was safe. Private Dae-jung suffered severe burns over 60% of his body. He pulled 3 unconscious crew members from a burning transport before collapsing. He spent 2 years recovering. Now he worked as a civilian firefighter. Dr. Minji Choi, a combat surgeon, performed field surgery on herself twice, once removing shrapnel from her own leg, later removing crushed fingers from her hand. She completed both procedures before treating other wounded. She still practiced medicine. "These aren't exceptional humans," Commander Sang-woo explained. "These are just soldiers doing their duty. Every military force has stories like this. It's what happens when humans are pushed to their limits. We find reserves we didn't know we had." "Why?" Hiram asked. Her voice was breaking. "Why are you built this way?" The commander was quiet for a moment. Because Earth demanded it. Because our ancestors who couldn't do this died. Because survival required pushing beyond what should be possible. We didn't choose this biology. We inherited it, but we try to use it responsibly. Do you ever wish you were different? Taewon asked. Do you wish you felt pain the way other species do? Commander Sang-woo considered this. Sometimes, when I see the fear in alien eyes when they learn what we can endure, when I realize that our normal is their nightmare, but this is who we are. We can't change our biology. We can only choose how we use it. As they left his home, the three students walked in silence. The military records had shown them humanity at war. Desperate, dangerous, unstoppable. Now I understand why the Federation was afraid, Dongmin said finally. When humans first developed faster-than-light travel, when they reached the stars, the galaxy saw a species that refused to quit, that fought beyond all reason, that survived everything their world threw at them. They thought we were a threat, Taewon added, a species that doesn't know when to stop, that might conquer or destroy. But humans chose peace, Hiram said quietly. They joined the Federation. They cooperate, they help. The same biology that makes them dangerous in war makes them reliable in peace. They don't abandon their friends. They don't quit on their commitments. She was right, Taewon realized. Human endurance worked both ways. They endured suffering in combat. But they also endured hardship to help others. They pushed through exhaustion to finish important work. They sacrificed their own comfort for their teammates. The same trait that made them terrifying made them trustworthy. They didn't give up. On anything. Or anyone. We need to include all of this in our presentation, Taewon said. The full picture. Not just the frightening parts. The complete truth about human pain tolerance and what it means. They had 3 weeks to prepare their final presentation. 3 weeks to find a way to explain humanity to the rest of the galaxy. To show that humans were both more dangerous and more worthy of trust than anyone realized. The truth would frighten people. But misunderstanding was more dangerous. Fear born from ignorance caused wars. Understanding prevented them. The galaxy needed to understand humanity. All of it, the pain, the endurance, the refusal to quit, and the choice to use that strength for cooperation rather than conquest.